Hey, so what is going on, everyone? It is me, Mr. Mario, and who am I with today?
What's up, guys? Dope Slender 930 here.
Hey, Daniel, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well. Like, honest now, I'm kind of thinking I probably should have used the bathroom again beforehand, but it will be okay for the next 45 minutes.
Tie it in a knot, man.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. Anyways, we are here for ModChat episode number 4. This is going to be April of 2015. Daniel, what are we talking about?
Today we are going to be talking about modding versus piracy and the differences and our opinions on the two subject matter.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, this is a thing that it's funny because I remember I did a video on this like years ago and people were like, they really enjoyed it, but they're like, I didn't think you would actually ever cover this. Because, you know, as you, Daniel, know, like you've been in modding scenes, like several modding scenes and all that. And, you know, the crazy but kind of disappointing thing with modding is that like, it's just like modding and piracy are just, you know, like they're not hand in hand, but they're like secret lovers with one another that no one's supposed to know about, and they make excuses. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely would say that, and I would say from a lot of people's perspective, when they hear or see and look at it, they tend to blend way more than they really should, if that makes sense.
Exactly, yeah. And that's why, I mean, you see a lot of people who, I mean, honestly, there are going to be, you know, services and all that do just straight up cover their ass, and they say, you know, these are quote-unquote backups of your games and all that. But it's like, you know, for example, like I've seen this. There's like several websites where you can like literally purchase like, you know, discs with burned games and they're called backups. It's like, really, dude?
Completely illegal. Completely illegal.
Well, no, they're backups.
No, that's still completely illegal.
I know.
The thing is, I've looked into this so many times because back when I was doing the whole flashing drive thing, I was like really interested in what the legality behind it all was. And you aren't even technically allowed to back up a game for somebody else, technically speaking. And you know, and to sell a backup game, absolutely, definitely 100% illegal.
Exactly, yeah. And it's like, it's one of those things, it's like you have to have air quotes around everything. It's just like, well, I'm buying this backup because it's a game I already have, but I can't back it up on my own.
The funny thing is with that is that you know as damn well as I do that these people, they're not dumb. They know exactly what they're doing. You know, they oh, I didn't realize. Come on.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like, really, you need a backup of Call of Duty 5 days before release?
Yeah, that sounds right. That makes a lot of sense. You must have pre-ordered it and then I don't know, you broke it already or something.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. But yeah, no, I mean, all jokes aside and everything, with a lot of modding scenes, because it's not gonna lie, I mean, of course, everybody knows, most of the time when you do modify a system in some way, one of the main benefits to it is you're able to either, you know, if it's an older system, play, you know, CD or DVD backups of something, or if it's a newer system, you know, you could run things off a hard drive, or you could do it with more advanced modification, anything like that. So it's literally like, there's several systems I have, like, for example, the Wii. They're both at my parents' house, but like the Wii or even like a RJ tag that I built for my brothers, I like those because honestly, they have games, they're kids, they scratch them up, and I just load all the games on a hard drive and they load up the games like it's Netflix or something, and it works out like that. Like for that, it's fine. But you know, then when it comes into play, where it's just like when you use, you know, those modifying methods and everything to get pirated material and all that, and that's when the modding scene, you know, comes under fire, you know, from copyright holders and all that stuff, because it's like, hey, you know, just because you mod your system doesn't mean you're going to play pirated games, but that does mean that technically you can play pirated games.
Yeah, and again, just like how you said with the Wii thing, me and my brother personally, this is before I even modified a console, but we went through 3 MW2 discs, man. One of them, the Xbox fell over while it was on, and it scratched the shit out of the disc, and the other one, oh, I want to say it was something similar. Like someone just picked it up and tried to slide, you know, move it over a little bit, and just by angling it a little bit, it got like the whole perfect circle of death thing. So scenarios like that, it's like that blows to have to buy the same game 3 times and spend $180 on it, you know. And for situations like that, if you can just have a backup and run it off of a hard drive, or just, you know, okay, whatever, you know, keep the ISO on file in case you need to make a backup for a situation like that. It's, you know, great. It's awesome.
Oh man, I've made like 4 copies of The Lion King for my brothers because they kept scratching them or like spitting up on them or just like, you know, losing them.
Yeah, so again, you know, scenarios like that, it's an asset, it's a tool, it's a great thing. But again, you know, there's such a fine line in between those two, and even if like your intent when you modify a console isn't to do pirated things. Like, it's so easy for someone to just be like, well, just maybe just one game, or just this. I don't know if I really want this game. I'm just gonna take it for a test. It happens. And the thing is, that in itself is the reasoning why modding is frowned upon by so many, like all the large corporations, essentially.
Exactly, yeah. Because
that.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I mean, it's really disappointing to look at it like that too. Like, I understand your point of view, but it's just like, there's so many things that you can do with the system and everything. Because they're tied back to this. It's
It's kind of a disappointment. And the thing is, there's like, I would say that, I mean, this is all stipulation, but I would say, and I've seen it at least a few times, where some of the big players in the game, in like the modding game, that are actually the guys that are cracking things and that are further developing things, a lot of those guys actually don't necessarily care for piracy, and they are completely about further development and like Linux type stuff, and they actually do modding in a hope that it'll give other kind of hobbyists the ability to create awesome apps and add-ons and functionality that wasn't there before. Not to, hey, let's just rip off every single game possible,
Exactly, yeah. And, I guess even looking at it now, like, okay, we're about, like, 7 minutes in. One thing that we've just completely glossed over is, our stances on this. So I guess, Daniel, like, we can go ahead and share this. But as some of you might or might not know, like, actually on my channel, because I like covering modding, and I do show how to back up games and everything, and, like, I'm not oblivious to it. I know people can use it to, BitTorrent a game and, get it online, get games for free and all that. But I do, cover the backup methods and everything. You don't show me, giving out cracked software or, linking to, like, any type of site, like, any Pirate Bay or anything like that. In fact, like, I'm one of those people where I will actually, like, remove comments, and even if there's repeat offenders, I will even, like, ban people who are, linking or anything like that, or who are trying to sell backups or anything like that, because I'm just like, I want to keep the modding aspect here. Like, I don't want, the whole piracy thing on here. And then even from a personal stance as well, I used to, like, when I was younger and all, I used to pirate, like, quite a bit and everything. But now, like, in recent years, I really don't, because there's really not so much of a need to. And, partially, I will say, not gonna lie, it is, a nice money type thing as well, too. Like, now I do have a job, I make more and everything. Whereas, when I was a kid, where you have, like, your income is, like, Christmas and your birthday, you don't have as much to go around. So, like, I completely understand it from that perspective. But I'm one of those people, like, I will respect something, and if it's something that, like, I really enjoy, like, if it's a game, a movie, music, anything like that, I know how it is to put in the effort and everything like that. I will go out and buy, especially if it's a game, because, I was a computer science major for about a year and a half. I've had my work copied. I've had work, partially stolen and all that, and it sucks. It really does. So, like, I would just feel bad, ripping code like that, honestly, just, in a game format.
Yeah, and from my standpoint on it is also pretty similar to yours. Again, I'd be a complete liar to say that I've never pirated anything. When I was younger, I was all over the whole LimeWire, and that. Oh man, I loved LimeWire. It was like the coolest thing ever as a kid. Because
LimeWire, you casual.
Yeah. Well, I mean, back then iTunes, I don't think even had the dollar song download thing. I believe when I first started, did they?
They did. It was 99 cents, and they started now. They were 79-cent songs, when they also started doing iTunes Plus, where it was like 129.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, well, I don't like iTunes. Just telling you all that right now. I hate iTunes with a passion.
Stupid iTunes. Anyways, yeah. So back then I used LimeWire and stuff like that, and I downloaded my fair share of things. I'm definitely can't say that I haven't, but again, just like he said, I do get quite a lot of comments basically asking, where can I get ISOs? How do I download games? Can you make a video on how to play burnt games? I've even had people use the word pirated games. I'm like, God, like really? You're just gonna God, you're a very blunt person. But I've never responded to any of that, and I used to comment back, kind of saying, I don't condone piracy on my channel and this and that. And again, the thing is, basically at this point where I'm at is that even when I could do games, I hardly ever did games. Like, it was one or two, and then I wouldn't even play them. I'd end up like just chucking them or something like that. So it was more like a test run type thing. But for me, I actually, like, since I'm pretty like, or at least was pretty big on collecting games and stuff like that. I like having my hard copy of the game. Like, I like having the manual and the book and the disc and stuff like that. So I mean, especially with current gen and stuff like that, I like buying the games that I want to play. And again, the thing is, if everybody was pirating and it was a really simple thing to do, then there would be no reason for developers to put in their hard, time, effort, energy into developing these games for months and, years, whatever it takes to create a full-fledged game. Because again, even though money's not everything. Money is what allows these people to create these games, and if that money is being, by a large being, diminished by people just downloading the games and not actually paying to go back to the developers, and it's going to really stunt innovation and people wanting to create really awesome games, and spending all their time on it because they won't be able to since there'll be no funding to back it.
Yeah, no, that's a very good way to put it. And I just want to say there's just a few things I kind of want to shoehorn in here real quick. One, there's going to be a lot of things we don't touch up on because we do not have enough time. Even if we stretch this out to an hour, there's so much we cannot cover in here simply enough. Two, neither of us are going to, because we're going to talk about, when it's like okay as well too. But this is not a whole legal matter or anything. Like, nobody start downloading games just because, Mr. Mario and Dope Stoner said it's okay here and there or something. Like, no. What we're saying is not the law or anything like that. Like, it's just our own opinions and all, and that's how it's going to be treated. But the third thing, one big thing I want to talk about is I don't want us to sound, completely oblivious to other parts around the world. Because, like, Daniel, you might know, as well as I do, there are places where there's only pirated things available. And that's it. They don't know what original things are.
Well, I will say this, that my mom's family being from Sweden, which is where the Pirate Bay was, originated from, and the creators, my uncle, my aunt's, uncle-in-law, whatever, when he was visiting here, I mean, I was really young. I want to say I was 10 or 11 or something like that. He was using the Pirate Bay, and I asked him about it, and he kind of showed me and explained to me what it was and stuff like that. Well, the thing is, Sweden, for the longest time, had no copyright laws when it came to digital content.
Yep.
And so it wasn't even illegal to do what he was doing. Now it's a different story. I believe Sweden has enforced, because there's been so many things with the Pirate Bay, they have enforced these laws now, but there's definitely parts of the world as well where like the laws are not the same as they are here in the States, So, I mean, depending on where you are, then, it's, again, like he said, it's different where you are in the world.
Oh, like one big thing is like in the Middle East, for example, like first off, I mean, this was decades ago, but when my dad came over here, like if you believe it, my dad didn't even know what the hell a copyright was until he came over to the US. He would buy bootleg tapes and everything because, like this is what they had back in the day, like bootleg cassette tapes and all. But he bought bootleg cassette tapes. That's all they had. They were a few dollars here and there. And there would be like a piece of paper that had some copyright stuff. And to him, he's just like, wait, copyright? What the hell is this? I mean, yes, I understand. I can copy this as many times as I want to. This is a copy tape already.
Yeah.
But then, there was all that other stuff going on where it's just like, like he didn't know what copyright was until he came to the US. He learned about it more and everything. But even just, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here, unfortunately. But yeah, like then there was one person I spoke with recently who's been a fan of mine for quite a few years, and they're from Jerusalem. And we had talked about this, and he said, okay, get this. Do you know how exciting this is? He said that people go over to, because he's in Jerusalem, he said that people go over to Jordan to take classes on modding.
No way.
Yeah, no, he said there's classes, and I told him I was jealous. He's like, no, they're not nearly as good as you all, like what you all do on YouTube. But he was saying that people go over there, they learn how to mod systems, all, they come back, they open up a shop, or they have a license, whatever it is. But he was just saying, he's like, I like original stuff, but unfortunately this stuff here is so hard to come by, it's so expensive, and everyone pirates.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, straight up, like, even when I went to Jordan, like, years ago, it's like, I don't know, like, first off, I mean, the systems, their hardware and all that, like a PS2, like, when they were like $100 here, you could buy them pre-modded there for like $300. But then all the games were bootlegged and everything, and an original game was like $60 or something like that. They were more than what they sold for in the US. But then, you get the bootleg games, not which they were actually pressed and everything, but you still had to have a mod chip to play them.
Yeah.
Their games were like, in US dollars, like $1.50 or $2 a piece.
Jeez, way more affordable, or like way more.
Exactly, and that's why it's just like, you buy the system, and then the games are stupid cheap.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, like, I'm also one of those things. I feel like piracy has done a lot of good for the world at the same time, because first all, like, advances in computing and everything, I don't think we would have seen, like, two big things that start with P have really advanced, technology and all that. And honest to God, these really are what they are. Piracy, that's one big thing, with, especially with, the .com bubble, the whole, like, MP3 thing with Napster and everything, we had this whole new wave of digital distribution available to us, and then we had all this competition with blank media and CD burners and DVD burners, Blu-ray burners, going on here and there, and that's upgraded our infrastructure, and we've gotten more affordable memory and everything. And the other thing, which we could probably, thank YouTube for as well too, and everything, we have this platform available to us, is honestly porn. Like, porn has really advanced the industry as well, too, with all the streaming sites and everything, and they have done a lot of revolutionary things with technology that happened before anyone else did.
I was expecting it to be porn.
What were you expecting?
I don't know. I thought when you said platform, I was like, okay, platform, that's the one. And then you threw porn at me, and I was just like, whoa, party.
And I'm sure a lot of people are just like freaking out, but it's like, no, honestly, think about it. Like, what were the first video streaming sites that started cropping up that you could easily access before YouTube?
Porn.
Exactly.
Porner Bros, ePorner. Shall I go on? It's like just going through my top ones, like, but. Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's funny though, because I actually never really looked at it like that. But I will say that, like you just said, with like especially CD burners, when like those were a big thing to get, like, the drives. Those primarily sold, or like pretty much only sold for that reasoning, to burn. To burn things. Like, I mean, how many people really, like, when they were really flying off the shelves, were buying them just to, like, burn photos to a disc,
Exactly. Like, that wasn't even, like, the first thing that you think of. Maybe, like, when they first came out, when they weren't conventional, when they were, like, $500-$600 for a burner.
Yeah.
But aside from that, no, it was really because the whole Napster explosion and bubble and everything. And you got to keep in mind, too, this is like the peak of the millennium and everything, like right when the millennium turned over. So CDs at the time, like now, like for example, I just pre-ordered a CD. I paid $10 for that. That's cheap, and it's from a band I really like. CDs were like $20, and there was no way you could buy a song at a time. There was really nobody putting out music or anything like that. I mean, hell, like even the way people produce, you have people who are producing music just in front of their computers now, and it's not even just like electronic music. It could be any type of music that wasn't available in the year 2000. I have to really stress this because I'm sure there are a lot of people who are like 14, 15 years old who don't remember this at all because, we're in 2015 now. You don't remember any of that.
One thing, this is completely random when it comes to the way music has changed, is that as much as I'm stoked with the fact that you can just buy one song now or you can stream one song, dude, I miss, like, I used to have a big store called Virgin Records by my house, man, and it was just full of, like, every band CDs. You had posters and stuff like that. They're all gone now because it's all digital. And again, like, I understand that's just the way things are, and like, boo-hoo, get over it. But it's just like, it was a part of my childhood, like going into the stores, like just, browsing all the different album covers and stuff like that from these bands that I was such a big fan of, And my pops, my dad actually got into burning things before I ever did, which is weird because he is just like technologically challenged. But he used to, my uncle used to like loan him CDs, and my dad would be like, oh, I want, my uncle was big on collecting CDs, my dad was big on burning CDs, and so he would, he'd be like, oh, I got all these badass new, albums and songs and stuff like that. But when my dad was doing that, I kind of feel like it was kind of like a gray area on whether that was okay or not. It wasn't like outright like this is not okay type thing at that point, because it was kind of.
But it's like, well, it's family, and one of us bought the CD.
Exactly. So it was kind of like you could justify it at that point. But it's interesting how again, like you said too with the hard drives. I mean, the reason why do people need such big storage? Because they're downloading a shit ton of movies and music.
Exactly.
So I mean, before if you're streaming it, you don't need it because it's not taking up any of your local disk space. But yeah, that's interesting. I never really thought that like piracy could stimulate the economy, but it does.
Piracy has done a lot of good. I mean, of course, it's also, done other things because now a lot of people just want their stuff for free. And honestly, there's a lot of stuff I listen to that's already given out for free, so it doesn't matter too much. But there's still paid stuff that I listen to as well, too, that I will pay for if I really like it. One thing I really want to talk about, though, here is, when piracy could actually be, I guess, quote-unquote, excused. And Daniel, I guess before I go into this, can you think of any examples that you have?
I, I brain farted for a second. Say exactly. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I was just looking at my wall, and I don't know why I stopped thinking.
Wait, you were thinking of what?
No, I was staring at my wall, and then all of a sudden I zoned out.
I thought you were doing like an I Love Lamp type thing.
No, not at all. So go again. Sorry, man.
Yeah, no. I was asking, like, can you think, or like, do you have any examples of when you think, like, piracy might be okay, or there's like a valid reason for it or something?
Oh, God. See, here's the thing. I could justify so many things, but they're so wrong, and I know that. Like, if you really, you know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't afford it, and I needed it for this and that, and it was educational, and, stuff like that, which is still really, again, if you can justify anything in life. So, I mean, I don't know how legitimate that is, but, at times I think it is okay to pirate something.
I mean, well, when you're saying, like trying something, one big thing I think of is DRM. Like, if it's an always online DRM thing and you just want to play offline, like, I know several people actually, there's been games that are like that. They buy the game and then they pirate it so they can play it offline.
Yeah, I guess that would be an example. I mean, software, like if you want to take them for a test drive or something like that, even though, again, that in itself is kind of like because most expensive and larger software distributors have a trial, of like 30 days or 7 days or whatever.
But a lot of them also are like limited trials as well, too, that you got to keep in mind. They don't give you the full
features. To me, that's kind of horseshit that they would do that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if they do that because they think that if they give you the full features, it'll be easy to crack somehow, like by tweaking with the, by tweaking with the trial thing because I've seen things where there's cracks where all you do is like reset your clock or your calendar on your computer and it bugs it out. So I don't know if that's the reasoning behind it. It's for security reasoning, but I don't understand like why you'd give someone a taste and not like let them just give me the spoonful for like a week or two here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I understand.
You're not going to get an accurate representation of something unless you actually can try it. Why are you going to handicap your software? This is a completely side note, but I'm just saying, like, I don't understand that. To me, you should. I don't know, dude. Everything should be freeware.
No, that'd be cool. Yeah, no. One big thing I want to say. This is one example that I have right here, and it particularly, like, it portrays gaming and everything. Of course, one big thing is like PC. Obviously, a lot of people pirate on there because it's so easy to do. Console piracy is like. Honestly, the only consoles that have had super, super bad piracy have been, like the Nintendo DS. But even that wasn't nearly as detrimental as one thing I'm thinking of is like, the Sega Dreamcast, where it's literally all you had to do is burn a disc and you play it. And this was like discovered when the Dreamcast was out. Like, it was still a very new system. Like, imagine like 6 months into like the PS4's life cycle, people found out how to pirate games, and all you had to do was just like burn a disc or something like that. You didn't have to open it, you didn't have to modify anything like that. So pretty much what happened, like, with Sega themselves, and this is going to be another Sega example, but, like, with Sega themselves, they actually were selling the Dreamcast at a loss, so they could make it up in software sales. But because it was so easy to pirate for that system, this is also around the turn of the millennium where things were getting more affordable, like blank CDs, burners, all that stuff. They didn't have software sales to back it up because everyone just pirated them.
So they got screwed.
Oh, they got majorly screwed. That's why the Dreamcast was the last console that came out from Sega.
I did know that, like, the Dreamcast, even the Saturn though didn't sell very good, did it? I never really heard of a lot of people playing the Saturn.
The Saturn. That's actually what I'm going to bring up. That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing why the Saturn didn't sell that well. But what I was trying to come at here was, I recently got a Saturn. Probably videos are going to go up and all that, like, by the time I put this out. But if you're tired of seeing Sega Saturn videos, deal with it, okay? Now, what's going on is there's one game I want to talk of in particular, okay? Daniel, have you heard of this game called Panzer Dragoon Saga, or have you heard of the Panzer Dragoon Collection?
Definitely have heard of it. Don't know what it looks like or anything, but I watched so many retro YouTube channels and stuff like that. I've definitely heard of that, yeah.
Okay, so you already have a little bit of background on it. Now, Panzer Dragoon, it's a good series and all that. They released Panzer Dragoon 1 and 2 and Saga on the Saturn. Then they re-released... No, they did a Panzer Dragoon Orta with like a remake of the first one for the original Xbox, and then that was it. Now, Panzer Dragoon Saga kind of got screwed over. See, here's the thing. The game came out in 1998. 1998 is pretty much by the time the Saturn was dead. Like, it was laying on the street dead. This game came out, it was going through a very long development cycle, and because of that, because the Saturn was dead, not that many stores were carrying it, so not that many stores carried copies of the game. Because the system was dead, not that many people were, playing on the Saturn. They moved on to, the Nintendo 64, the PlayStation. They were looking forward to, the new upcoming systems that were going to be coming out soon, like the Dreamcast would have come out in 1999. So all that other stuff was going on. There were so many factors against it. In addition to that, this was a very expensive game to produce, and it was expensive, to make and all because it spanned 4 discs for a dead system. Not that many people wanted to do that. So in total, honestly, I think I'm being gracious here, including European, Japanese, and US copies, I think less than 50,000 copies of this game have been pressed.
Wow.
That is not that many.
No.
Now, here's the thing. This game has 2 things going for it. 1, it's rare because not that many copies were pressed. And 2, it's an excellent game. It's a very good game. And I got really lucky because I'm borrowing a copy from a friend right now. So I'm able to play his copy of it, which it's just awesome. He's lending it out to me. But pretty much what happened with this is this game, Panzer Dragoon Saga, it's a very good game. But it only exists on the Sega Saturn. We're not bringing emulation into this, but aside from that, emulation for the Saturn is not that good. There's never been a re-release of this game or anything like that, so it's not like you can buy an upgraded version on like the Nintendo Shop or PlayStation Network or, an Xbox Live Arcade version or anything like that. No, you can only play this game on the Sega Saturn. Now, Daniel, guess how much this game normally sells for in decent condition?
Oh god, retail. I would say a 4-disc game for the Saturn. I'm gonna say $200.
300.
$300?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It averages about. I even saw one person was selling the first disc $80.
Yeah, that's insane, dude.
Yeah. So this game costs about $300 to get. Now here's the thing. If I buy this game, like if I go and buy it from a retailer from like Amazon or eBay or something like that, or I buy it at a game shop used, Sega is not seeing any money from that. The developers are not seeing any money from that because they have no way of selling this. This game is not being sold anymore. It's completely locked on the Saturn. And it's times like that, when it's a really limited release and it's expensive and it's not readily available and you can't get it, you literally can't get it any other way, then I would see, an exception to pirating that because it's like, well, you can't expect everyone to end up spending $300 on this game that really, could have been a lot cheaper if they pressed it properly, if it wasn't as rare. If they did a bunch of other things properly, this game you could probably pick it up for $30, $40, something like that. But no. Honestly, it's a good game, but I'm not saying it's $300 good.
My question is that at what point is it no longer piracy?
Exactly. That's
in
a
situation like that, is that even piracy? I mean, who are you stealing from?
Exactly, because technically the scalpers could be stealing from me.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. To me, at that point, just like okay, like for example, when you're running emulators and you have ROMs and stuff like that, a lot of those games, the licensing is gone on them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I will say this, though. The only exception, the reason why I didn't bring that up is because a lot of those games, even like Earthbound, for example, another example I could have brought up was Earthbound. But Earthbound, you can buy legitimately on the Wii or on the Wii U or on the 3DS for like $5 to $10.
Got you. They have their own remakes of it or like
exactly.
Ports.
You can buy ports of them. So if somebody says, well, I can't buy Earthbound because it's too expensive, it's just like, no, you have a Wii over there, right? You can buy Earthbound for about $10. But like with this game, Panzer Dragoon Saga, I can't get it on anything else.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I guess because that wasn't really a thing up until the last really couple current or like last gen. Really, I mean, how far back? Like PlayStation 2, maybe they did like a remake, if you will, but they didn't have a whole online store where you can download games and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah,
that was the thing.
That was the 7th generation of system, so last generation.
Yeah, so I guess in that case that might change it up a little bit because they're still trying to milk it, but to me, that's still like a pretty gray area, on those older games. Whether because to me, like when I play emulators of like Super Nintendo games and NES, like I like collecting them. So if I had the original, way better. But I don't remotely feel bad when I play emulators of any of those games, dude. I don't. They're just so damn old. They're from like NES is before I was even born. You can't find most of the games anywhere. I don't. Those games, I just feel like again though. I know. I've heard this, like, because you know how there's, like, retro duo systems or whatever?
Yeah.
Oh, basically, for those of you that don't know, they're like, a Chinese knockoff console that can play like SNES, NES, and N64, or like Genesis. Like it's just a bunch of
They don't not N64.
not N64.
Never seen an N64 clone system.
Okay, well then Super Nintendo, NES, and Genesis or something like that. Basically, they can play all those different cartridges. Well, I read somewhere that them selling those consoles at this point are actually not illegal because the licensing to the hardware that those consoles used expired at some point.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that as well too.
So yeah, I mean, again, I don't know. That's just an article I read online. I'm sure if I called up Nintendo, they wouldn't be too thrilled about it, regardless of whether that's true or not. You know, but I'm just saying that some of these older games, to me, that's kind of an exception, man. When they're hard to get and the only ones available for whatever, because they were like late launches, so they flopped or stuff like that. To me, that's again, this is me saying that it should be an exception. The law, I couldn't tell you, dude. I'm no lawyer. I don't know whether what's technically allowed and not allowed, but I just don't. I'm telling you, those are the scenarios where I don't feel remotely bad for doing what I'm doing. If I was doing it, or whatever.
Of course, and then this wouldn't be with gaming and all, but even music. I mean, there's even been times like musicians have said, yes, you could pirate this or something. Like might not be the most legal thing because they're still saying pirate. But like one example is like the band. I just pre-ordered their new album that's coming out, 10 Years. I really like this band, and they have this one album. It's like their first actual album with, the current lead singer and all that they did. It's called Killing All That Holds You. It was pretty much their demo album. It was a full album, but it was, their demo one that came out before their hit album and everything. And it is great. Like, it's honestly one of my favorite albums. It's an excellent title. It sounds raw. There's so much I like about this. I don't want to make this an album review or anything. But essentially, this album, it's not impressing anymore. You really can't buy it digitally. Like, there's really not a digital option from what I've seen, at least the last time I checked. And you can't buy it on the band's website or anything like that. And copies of this album go for like $50, $60, $70 a piece. So that's another one of those things where it's like, well, there's an exception that can be made here. Yeah. I mean, this is music that's been made to be heard, and even the band themselves, they didn't see themselves blowing up really as they did, so they didn't press that many copies of it. Again, because, they were paying out of pocket, they didn't have all the money and everything, but they haven't remade this album.
Yeah, again, but the thing is, if getting back to it, what is the legality behind it? We don't know, right? I mean, essentially, like, even though it's one of our times where we're okay with it, like, you don't know whether that's technically okay, right? I mean,
exactly. Like, see, and even thinking about it, like, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure if it's copyright. I want to say it is, but I'm really not 100% sure on that.
Yeah. Yeah, those, I guess, again, like, those are some of the times where it would be, to me, okay and justifiable to do without any kind of, like, feeling of you're doing something wrong. But it's just, it gets hard because then you've got, like, with anything, at least I've experienced in life, that when you start kind of like justifying things, it's like, where does the line get drawn? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. It's kind of like when people, you'll see like stories of like people who are like laundering money or like, skimming money from companies on, and they don't have a remorse for it because they've justified it to themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Like even thieves. Like, I've known people like, oh, if it's a big company, then I don't feel bad. They've got so much money, and then it just like things like that. Once you start justifying things, it's hard. Even though blue and yellow are two different colors, and there's completely different spheres, if you will, or spectrums. It's still like once you start justifying, if there's no set like this is what's allowed, what's not allowed, people are gonna think different things are acceptable than the next person.
Of course. Which
is why you've got people that have no problem downloading tons of the game for themselves, but not only for themselves, but selling the game at a profit to random people. Like that's it comes back down to like I don't feel any guilt. Like they don't even think twice about it. So a lot of people.
Yeah, no, and actually I'm one of those people because I'll say this. Like I just want to say I'm not gonna like yell at anyone for pirating or anything like that. I'm just like whatever you do with your own connection, your own time, your own money, that's fine. Just like don't bring it to my channel or anything like that. But I will say this: for people that pirate, it's like you pirate, cool. Now people that pirate, like this would be like UK, US, anything like that. People that pirate and they try to make a living like selling off all that stuff. Yeah, you're a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Well, it's not cool, and plus it's like I don't think that they realize the repercussion for their actions, so how much trouble they could really get into. I mean, do you remember? I don't see it much anymore, but I remember on a lot of VHSs I used to watch, and it would have the whole piracy warning at the beginning. It said,
oh yeah, you wouldn't steal a car and all that other stuff.
Oh yeah, no, that one too. But there was one that was just like blue text, and it said like up to either it was like $100,000 or like $1 million fine or something like that. I mean, it was huge, dude. And I mean, I think that a lot of people, they think again, just like you've got people on the internet that are trolls that complete like keyboard gangsters or whatever, and in real life they wouldn't say or do any of the things that they're saying online. Well, I think that maybe similarly the people if you're downloading it and you're just doing it out of your house and stuff, you feel some kind of a safety net because you're not out doing it. It's all in the comfort of your own home essentially. Mm-hmm. And so they don't realize the law's eye. Doing that is the same thing as literally like almost running into a store, grabbing something and booking off with it, essentially selling it or stealing,
But then the thing is, then you run into the other thing where it's like technically you didn't steal anything because the original is still there. You just made a copy of it.
That's true. Valid point. That's a valid point. But I mean, I'm kind of just giving like sort of ish an example, to an extent. You're right though, because again, you're not really stealing, you're just taking it and cloning it, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one big thing I will say, though, is, like, I don't have an issue paying for things if it's something that's actually worth paying for. And I think a lot of other people feel like that, because, Dana, I think you can agree with this, just, with me on here, but, like, there's a lot of games out that are $60 that are not worth $60.
Well, the last 2 games I've bought, this is my fault, but I've played them for, like, an hour or 2 each, and I'll probably like never play them again. Maybe I will, but Dying Light, dude. I'm like 2 hours into that game, and it's been sitting on my shelf, dude. And same with stupid Bloodborne, man. Like after I talked to you last, it has not seen like any movement or nothing, dude. I just and here I am. I'm like $120 in the hole for an hour or 2 of fun. But that's me being stupid. Those games are probably totally worth it, and I'm just like not the right guy for them. But I just. It's just, I don't know.
No, I'm talking about people selling like a complete scam of a game or something for like $60 and you play and you're like, this game is shit. Why is this $60?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, even dude, with like software, like there's so many software where it's just like,
software is so bad about it. That's a whole nother thing we can talk about.
Dude, I mean, there was a 3D modeling software, like an AutoCAD software. I'm trying to think of what the name it was. God, off the top of my head, I can't tell you. But dude, I was looking into it for my 3D modeling before I went with like the free available software out there. Dude, we're talking at the low point. I can't remember exactly. But I know it was no less than $2,000, up to $10,000 though. It was somewhere in that range. It was absolutely absurd. Like, I mean, again, granted, the software was intended for like engineers and architects, and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like, what the fuck, man? That's stupid. $2,000 to $10,000, like, dude. That's more than not more than my car, but I mean, it's a lot of money,
Yeah, no, I understand.
It's just, that to me, that's like absurd. And same with like, Cinema 4D is like $1,000. I believe that's $1,000 software. That 3D.
I have no idea how much it is, honestly.
Yeah, it's expensive ass software, dude. I just don't understand like how they can really think that it's okay to charge that much for software.
I will say with Cinema 4D, things like that, the reason why they do charge so much is due to the fact that like those are things that not just consumers use, like full scale businesses use them. People in Hollywood use software like that.
Yeah. Professionals.
Yeah, of course. Like they're professional software. It's like, okay, I could see the 4-figure price tag on that. I understand that.
Yeah, I guess then that's just more like the grumpy hobbyist over here.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's trying to like play ball with the big boys, but just doesn't have the gear for it. Essentially,
No, I gotcha.
But
I mean, just kind of wrapping this whole thing up here and all that. Like again, I'm just trying to stress to everyone, like, look, you do what you want to do. It's all good. At the end of the day, this is just like Daniel and I's opinions on here and everything. And I still believe Piracy has done a lot of good stuff. Yes, it might not be the most legal thing, but there's places in the world that don't have another option, anything like that. And at the same time, I feel like, there are exceptions that can be made to piracy, but there's also times where it would just be, a complete scumbag move to pirate things.
Yeah. And again, back to what Mr. Mario said, neither of us are telling you guys to go out and download things because it's okay. I don't, I mean, I know, again, like, from my point of view, the things I've said too is it doesn't sound like I'm very, like, like piracy terrible all the time, but like
there's a lot more things that are worse than piracy, like murder.
Yeah, definitely. But like the thing is, when you do download stuff off the internet, there's always a risk. I personally, okay, I've got a quick little piracy story. I met a guy off Craigslist about 3-4 years ago when I was in my prime of repairing things. I drove out to his house. He had like 3 Red Ring of Death consoles I bought, and he flashed consoles and sold games. And he was probably a dude, I want to say, in his late teens, early 20s. And he showed me that Microsoft had actually sent him an email. Now, granted, could this have been another person on Craigslist that didn't like what he was doing? A competition? Absolutely. But the email looked pretty legit, and it, basically said to, cease and desist. It was basically a cease and desist, email saying that, if this activity continues, we will prosecute you, and, basically to the full extent of the law type thing. So just, be aware that, again, you're not invincible on the internet, just like with do you remember, Mario? I'm sure there was people on LimeWire, random students that I think it was out in San Diego or something like that, and they got slammed, dude, hard.
I will say I actually did read up on that here recently, and a lot of those 4 lawsuits ended up falling through.
Oh, they didn't actually.
So many of them did, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I will say I just want to interrupt you on this. I believe I know why your friend got a cease and desist letter. I don't think it was from piracy. I'm pretty sure it was because he was selling modified consoles and selling it as a service. Because I know people who also do modify systems and everything. They have gotten C&Ds from Microsoft for that.
Off of Craigslist and stuff?
Yeah, they sell. I know 1 or 2 people. They were doing a lot of flashing off Craigslist.
Yeah,
and it wasn't pirating or anything like that. They were flashing systems. They would get a cease and desist from Microsoft.
Huh. Okay. Well, yeah. Then that could have been the case. I remember him saying it, and so in my mind, I just put 2 and 2 together and was like, "Oh, it's probably Cause he's
well, you know what, Daniel? This is what we're talking about right here: modding versus piracy.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's interesting though. But yeah, so again, all I'm really saying is that you're gonna do what you're gonna do, and just again, make sure that you realize that. There is potential consequences for your actions, and I don't really feel I've always felt this way, that the guy that's downloading and selling is in a much worse position than the guy that's just for myself. But then again, I'm not the company that's got a team of people that I don't know how companies' teams work, how hard they really go at trying to stop people, but just, I don't know, God, I'm ranting, but just be careful. Whatever you guys do, just be careful, and please be smart, because it's just such a... The numbers I've seen, which, again, they're probably really dramatic and exaggerated, there just could be so much money for just doing 1 or 2 things. Right, Mr. Mario? I mean, to get fined to $100,000...
That's actually why a lot of college campuses and all that do block peer-to-peer activity and all that, because, the college gets slammed with DMCAs.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Because there's so much piracy going on from that IP or their internet or whatever.
Yeah, that's how it works out and everything. Yeah, I will say this, as I was saying, it's kind of, we're almost repeating ourselves because we're almost at the 45-minute mark here, but really, it's just what I'm trying to say is, yes, modding can be used to assist with piracy, but as you've said before, modding and piracy are not going to be alike, and most of these developers who are modifiers and everything are people who are actually against piracy. I mean, even look at, Ninjax, for example, on the 3DS. The person who coded that actually coded it specifically to not play pirated, 3DS ROMs or anything like that. GeoHot, when he released his jailbreak on the PS3, his jailbreak, his custom firmware was not designed to run ISOs or, games or anything like that. It wasn't supposed to be anything like that. And of course, anything else has been designed more to preserve things. Because I'm one of those people, especially with the Xbox 360, how it scratched up discs and all that, I would rather play copy discs in there. With my older systems as well, I would rather preserve those original games. I'll just play the CDR copies of them.
Yeah, from a collector's standpoint, because otherwise you get wear and tear on them,
Exactly, yeah, and it's not even super bad, but it's just you know what, I think I'd rather replace the system than replace my game.
Yeah, because the thing is, even on the Xbox 360, if you don't get, that perfect, well, I think they call it, Circle of Death, or, Ring of, was it Circle of Death?
The Ring of Doom.
Yeah, exactly, even if you didn't get that, just from using the disc over time, the laser still, etches little things in it over time.
Occasionally, yeah, it can.
So, it's just, I don't know. For me, again, too, it's for those games, eventually, they're going to be retro games, in 20 years from now or whatever. And it's they're not going to be available essentially to be bought, and if they are, they're going to be just like now when I go out to like look for retro games, they're going to be more expensive. So like I'd rather hold on to my original and still have it, but then like I mean when you're playing the game and the disc is in there, you don't give a rat's whether it's the original or not. You just want to play the game. So if you can keep your original copy nice in your shelf, like wouldn't you rather do that?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah. Anyways, I want to know what people think on this. So, like, please, you know, if you're on YouTube, leave your comments down below, like, your opinions on this and everything, because I really want to see what people think of all this.
yeah, definitely. Because again, like I said, I've got so many people, and I know since our content is so similar in terms of like the modding stuff, you've got to get quite a lot of people just asking you how to burn games and stuff like that, and how to do the ISO stuff.
I mean, ISOs and burning games, like, I get that, but no, like, the issue I have is when people are just like, yeah, I'm trying to download this game, and they, like, link to the Pirate Bay, and they send me the link, and they're like, how can I put this into my torrent, and how can I download it? I'm like, no, I'm not showing you that.
Wow, yeah, that's actually extreme. I don't know. I've gotten that maybe like once or twice, but that's not something I typically get.
I actually have seen on one of your videos, I don't remember which one, but I remember there was one of your videos I saw where there was a comment on there, and this guy was asking you, he was just like, hey, can I get your email so I could send you a list of games that I want to download, and you download and send them to me?
That sounds, you know what? I probably see stuff like that and just look right over it. You know, I'm just like, okay, next, you know. Yeah, that's God. I just people. It's just God, dude. No, I would never. Just so yeah. So those of you watching this too, like now you know. Now you know. If you send me like a comment like that, you'll either get no response, you'll get blocked, or I will say something just wise assish back, like super, just like stupid.
Just link them to a Trojan.
Yeah. I'll link you to one of my top 3 favorite porn sites.
All right. Well, anyways, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. So this has been Mr. Mario, you know, speaking on behalf of, you know, the modding versus piracy debate, I guess, or topic of Mod Chat here.
And DopesHunter930, and thank you guys for tuning in. And as he said, comment down below because that's like where I get my kick to see what you guys agree, disagree on, and, you know, add your own 2 cents to our, you know, subject matter.
Absolutely, yeah. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you for watching, everyone. Hey, Daniel, let's go and pirate like 3 terabytes worth of stuff now.
It sounds like a plan, man.